guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and same here. I have a trope recommendation video for marriage of conveniences that I love. I really love a marriage of convenience, and now I like it in like the fantasy historical setting. It's done so well in the contemporary setting because there's a lot of stakes involved and a lot of angst because they're marrying someone they might not necessarily want to be marrying, and then having to live with that person, so much forced proximity. They do have to get married for various reasons, and I love the more unique concepts, whether it's like having two families, having to form some kind of like business alliance, or they need an inheritance, or any other reason. So I will go ahead and get to my recommendations. I do have two on here that I just want to chat about that I'm really excited to read that are on my TBR, and the first one's Arranged by R.K. Lilly. I have not yet read this, but I know Cheyenne from That Tell Book Girl really loves this, and I think that Lacey read this a while ago and she really loves it. This has been on my TBR for literal years, and I know that it's a marriage of convenience. The synopsis is a little vague on Goodreads, but I love this cover and I need to read this book. So this one I definitely need to read, but the other one is number one in the series that I'm going to recommend. So I am recommending The Temporary Wife by Katerina Mora. This entire series I believe is going to be arranged marriages / marriage of convenience, and so this one is more marriage of convenience because he is doing it to get out of an arranged marriage because their grandmother is pretty much established. She is going to pick who they marry. So this one is book 2, and this one, the hero, he has had his same assistant for a long time, and she is invaluable. Like, he really needs her help, and he has liked her a lot, and she hasn't felt that way for him. She has really worked her way up into this position, and she works for him, and something happens at a party in the beginning and it kind of changes their dynamic, and he is actually then betrothed to someone for a business alliance by his grandmother, and he really doesn't want to marry her. He's like, I don't want to do this arranged marriage. So he asks his assistant and kind of makes a deal with her. She gets something, he gets something. You need to marry me. And there's like a deadline on the marriage. He's like, we're just gonna get married for however long we need to, and then we can go our separate ways, but we have to live together because there's stipulations to these arranged marriages of my grandmother, or else like he'll be cut off and won't get any money from his grandmother. So he needs to follow these rules, and they have to live together. They can't spend a certain amount of days apart, or else like this whole situation can't happen. So she agrees, and they have an arranged marriage, and I just really love how in love with her he was. I love it when the hero is a billionaire and does anything for the heroine, but is not afraid to admit that he really likes her. So he has wanted this from the beginning. He's like, I mean, you're kind of it for me. Like, I feel like this is not gonna have a deadline, but I'm gonna tell you that just so you feel more comfortable. And I really love that. I loved the heroine and her ambitions. I loved the end of this book and how their relationship and family ended off. So this one is great, but the first one I really need to read, which is The Wrong Bride. This one is super, super popular. I do have it on audio. I'm gonna read it this month, and this one is an arranged marriage where he is actually set up to marry someone and then has to marry the sister, and the sister has loved him, I think, for a long time, and he is grappling with the fact that I think he actually does like the sister, but he wanted to continue and move forward with that arranged marriage. So these can be read as standalones. This does give enough context to book 1 that you can read this totally fine, which is what I did, but I'm really excited to move on to the next one because she's literally marrying the person that was supposed to marry her sister. I love that dynamic. I definitely want to read this book. Then I have With You Forever by Chloe Leese. This one is book 4, I think, in the Bergman Brothers series. This one's a friends to lovers romance, and she has to move into the Bergman family's like house that she thinks is habitable, but apparently it's not because it's like falling apart. So then she has to go and live with the hero because she does not have a place to stay, and they're gonna renovate this house together. Like, the hero really wants to do that, and instead of asking his family for help, he decides to take it upon himself to fix the problem and decides to marry her in order to get an inheritance he needs to fix up this house. It's actually the synopsis of another book I have on this list. So a lot of times in marriage of conveniences, they marry in order to have an inheritance. I don't know what it is about inheritances and like stipulating they need to marry someone, but that's what in this one was. I love the series. I love the dynamics of the family, especially in the Bergman Brothers series. So if you like found family and family dynamic, this one's friends to lovers. It's super sweet. I would check the series out. This one is a marriage of convenience in the series, and it was really cute. So the next one that has, I'll just go ahead and say it, the one that has that similar kind of plot line to it is The Co-op by Tara DeWitt. I didn't personally super love this book. I gave it 3 stars. However, so many people really love it. So if it sounds interesting to you, I would check it out. I had just loved Funny Feelings by her, and this one is such a different vibe that I didn't love it as much as I love Funny Feelings, and I couldn't help comparing it to her other book. So this one, our hero and heroine have a past. So they like kind of were hooking up in the past when they were teenagers, and the hero does something that makes the heroine absolutely despise him. And so she leaves, and now she is back because their grandmother, they left a stipulation in their will that they had to marry to get money, and they're fixing up the house that their grandmothers lived in together. I believe that was how this was set up. And so they have to fix up this house together because they want to sell it to make money. And so they end up having to get married. It's super forced proximity, not only because of the marriage, but because they are building up this house together. And there's really funny moments in here because the house is literally like falling apart, and there's things that they do like having to do with like the water and like a washing machine situation that was really funny. But what this was missing was more of the backstory connection between them, because I did not understand why the heroine hated the hero so much. It is hate to love, and I would have liked to see some more flashbacks seeing that kind of connection between them to build it up a little bit more. But like I said, a lot of people really do love this book, so if you want a contemporary marriage of convenience where they have to fix something up together, you can check this out. Another one I really love is Beautifully Broken Redemption by Catherine Cowles. This one, our heroine actually has a record. She was in jail, and it was not her fault. It's a really frustrating situation for her, and she ended up being in jail. Now she is out, and she has very abusive parents, and so her sister ends up passing away, and her sister had children, and she is the best option for these kids. She's like, I want to adopt them, I want to raise them, I love these children. However, her record is standing in her way of doing that, and so the hero sees she has a problem. She actually volunteers at a shelter because she had to live there when she got out of prison, and so now she works for them. And the hero also volunteered, but he's all very wealthy, so he volunteers for this shelter, meets her, hears about her problem, and offers to marry her. And he says, if you're married to me, you will look a lot better to the courts, and they could possibly agree for you to take custody and not give custody to your parents. And it's a very heartbreaking romance with the situation involving the parents and her parents, and I really love this. So I loved the hero and how he was just trying to be a really good guy, but also obviously he was really into her. This is, I think, the last book in the series, but it can definitely be read as a standalone. This series, especially by Catherine Cowles, is not as connected as her other series, especially like the Tattered Stars series. I would recommend reading that in order, but this one, they're companion books, but they're not as intertwined as her other series. So you can read this as a standalone. I really enjoy this one. It's just such a sweet, still some suspense in here, romance, and a really great marriage of convenience. So I saved 2 for last that are pretty well known. So we have one of my favorites, which is Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie and Cole. Another reason people have marriage of conveniences is for either a green card or insurance. So this one is for the insurance aspect. This one, our heroine is dealing with a really bad eating disorder because of her home life, and she does not take good care of herself. She has a lot of psychological trauma, and so she doesn't have a good home life, like I said, so she doesn't have insurance, and she passes out. And the hero works construction next to where she goes to school, and they start up a friendship because her car had died, and he's like, I can help you out. And there is an age gap. I think he's in his later 20s or he's 30 and she is 18, and they start a friendship. They just like genuinely really like each other, and then he realizes she has a problem, and he's like, we need to get you help. And she can't get help. She can't afford it, and she has no insurance. And so he says, you can marry me. Marry me. We're just gonna be friends. It's just gonna be platonic. Marry me and I'll take care of you. And so they end up getting married and slowly falling for each other, and it was so good. Like the depth of this relationship, how they genuinely just really cared about each other, and like I said, very slowly start falling for each other as the forced proximity increases. She moves in with him. Like I said, her home life wasn't great, so he's like, move in with me, and then he brings her home to his family. And I love this one so much. Like talking about it makes me want to reread it. I did listen to the audio on my Hoopla, so check your library for the audiobook of this, but it is so good. And the last one I have is another like will stipulation one, and that is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This one is where we have billionaire heroes. I love a good billionaire. And their grandfather basically owns like Disneyland. Grandfather passes away and says to get your share of the company, you need to do these things. So book 1, he had to do something like project based. This one he's got to marry, and book 3 he has to do something about his past. So this one he has to have a marriage of convenience and ends up marrying his assistant. So that's how this one goes, and I just love how much these men love their women and will do anything for them with their money. I just like something about a billionaire just buying anything to make the heroine happy. And they're like authentic, really thoughtful things that they buy. I love that. So this one was really great. This was probably my second favorite in the series. Book 3 is my favorite, book 2 is my second favorite, and book 1 is my least favorite. But this is a really fun billionaire romance series. Everybody's heard of it. That's why it's last on this list, but highly recommend. And those are some Marriage of Conveniences that I love and definitely recommend. Please give me your recommendations. I feel like this is a trope that I absolutely love, but I feel like I don't read enough. So let me know your favorites. I need to read more, and let me know what you thought of these, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.